Welcome back to the Taking Flight podcast with Crowe PR. I am Anna Crowe, your host, and today I have the immense pleasure of sitting down with the one and only Brian Smith, founder of a little brand called UGG. So stay tuned. Brian.
Hi there.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining me on Taking Flight.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It is such an exciting time in your life, and you have such a beautiful journey that I can't wait to share it with our viewers.
Oh.
Well, why don't we get started with your background? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started.
Going way back to after I left high school, my parents sort of pushed me into being an accountant because it was nice and steady. And I did that for 10 years. I was working during the day and studying at night. And after 10 years, I graduated and I quit the same day because I hated it. I had this desire to start my own business. And I remember meditating one time because I'd bought a book on yoga and it sort of led to meditation. This is 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, man, all the big trends are coming out of California. I'm going to go to California, find the next big thing, and bring it back to Australia. And so, within a couple of weeks, I, got to LA. I had a surfboard in my suitcase, and I rented a little house in Santa Monica, and rented a Dodge van. And first thing I did was drive to Malibu because I'd been reading about Malibu in the surf magazine since I was a little kid, And I spent like 3 or 4 or 5 months there, trying to figure out, what's the next big thing. I was looking at billboards and magazines and the Wall Street Journal. And after 4 or 5 months, it was a fluke that I was surfing one afternoon. It was October and the wind had switched to the cold and the water was chilly. And after surfing, I was pulling on my Ugg boots that I'd brought from Australia. And I just got goosebumps and I thought, oh my God, there are no sheepskin boots in America. And at that time, 1 in 2 Australians had some sort of sheepskin footwear.
Wow.
So I was with a buddy. I said, man, we got to go into business. We're going to be instant millionaires. And every entrepreneur who's watching will understand that feeling of the aha moment.
So yoga, meditation gave you clarity.
It got me moving,
Yeah. And then came out to California, the beautiful coastline, and saw the opportunity. Very cool. Well, tell us a little bit about the brand itself. Obviously, I don't know who hasn't heard of the UGG brand, and it's grown over the years, and you've had different events and successes. But tell us about the brand.
Okay, well, a brand, it's a tricky thing. A brand is not your trademark registration. A brand is not your logo. And a brand is not the product. A brand is what consumers think of you. And that takes a long while to develop what consumers think of you. They've got to see you, they've got to try the product, they've got to experience things. And depending on your branding, customer service is part of the branding. If somebody pisses off a customer, bad for the brand.
Right.
So if somebody goes out of their way and helps a customer, you got them going to buy again and again and again.
It's loyalty.
Yeah. So there's that aspect of branding, and then there's the positioning of it. I absolutely murdered the brand of UGG for the first 3 or 4 years because I was using models that I posed on the beach with the perfect hair and perfect clothing, perfect, the big tall boots up in the major part of the ad. And, my sales the first year was $6,000 and the next year was like 20 and the next year was 30. And it should have been way, way, way more because I was spending a lot of money on these ads. And it took to like the 4th year, the 5th year of business, and I was almost ready to quit because it was just going so slowly. And I was explaining this problem to a friend of mine who owned a surf shop in San Diego. And he said, oh, shut up, Brian. And he calls out the back to all these little kids who store their surfboards in the shop, right? And he said to them, what do you guys think of Uggs? And every one of them just went, oh, those Uggs, man, they're so fake. Have you seen those ads, those models? They can't surf. And like instantly I realized I'm sending the wrong message to my target market. And when I saw my ads through their eyes, it was embarrassing how bad they were, But what it did, as an entrepreneur, when you hit that wall, you got to figure out a way around and over. So I figured I'd call a buddy of mine in Orange County who was running a scholastic surf team, all these young kids, and they were a breeding ground for young pros. And I said, Pete, you got any young kids? And he gave me two guys, Mike Parsons and Ted Robinson. And instead of posing them on a beach, we went surfing, Trestles in San Clemente and Black's Beach here in La Jolla. And they're a mile-long walk, and there's always great surf at the end. And I thought that every kid who reads Surfer magazine would just die to be walking along that road with Mike or this one with Ted, Wow. And so I just used my Canon Sure Shot, and took some photos going to and from the beach. And when I ran the ads that next fall, the sales went to $220,000.
Wow.
And why? Because I'd finally figured out the essence of good advertising. And that is, you've got to make the reader want to be in that photograph, right? Whether it's a paper advertisement or a magazine, or whether it's on your website or it's an Instagram thing, the more you can get the viewer in wanting to be in that ad, the more successful your advertising will be. And so that was the biggest breakthrough for me. It took 5 years for me to figure out how to market my product.
Wow. I mean, you touched on so many cool things. You talked about customer insights.
Very important.
Right? Listening to what the market is saying.
Yeah.
You talked about, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, the moment of maybe I'm just going to give up.
Right.
Because my expectation and reality.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah. It was so hard.
Yeah. No, but that's so cool that you persevered. And then I love the idea of the storytelling. It's very different, to your point, where you put a model and with a product, and doesn't mean that those models don't work, of course. It's a huge industry. However, the essence of the brand, the storytelling, the connection that you were able to create.
Yeah, and even though it was 45, 50 years ago, that was like influencer marketing, and we
were on the cutting edge of influencer marketing.
And we took that into, like, snowboarding had just started. And, all the skiers were horrified, all the coloured hair and earrings and nose rings and stuff. But I saw the potential of snowboarding, so I jumped into that really early and started sponsoring young snowboard kids. And then back east, I was a little bit flummoxed for a couple of years because I didn't know what they did for sport back east. And I was asking one day a sporting goods owner, what are the kids doing? He says, you don't, they play hockey. And as an Australian, we don't have hockey in Australia, right? So I started to do some research, and I go, oh my God, this is twice as big as the surfing market, And so I started advertising to the young hockey players, and the reason I went after the youth was they don't have the money, but Mum does, right? And if you can whine long enough and loud enough, oh, Mum, all the cool kids at high school have got a pair of Uggs, I want a pair for Christmas. That was the market. That was the most powerful and influential market, with young kids with their moms.
So really, knowing your customer, and how to speak to them and how to drive that behavior.
Yeah. But it took 5 years to figure out.
That's not that long, as a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you. But that's very cool. And you talk a little bit about influencer marketing, right, in its early stages. Were there other marketing and PR levers that you pulled or that you're proud of? Were there some events that you did?
Yeah, later on, like when a company was doing 10, 15 million, I was trying to get into the, I was big in all these little niches, but I wanted one brand that said casual comfort. And so I was sitting on a plane coming back from the East Coast one time, and the person next to me, the girl, had a Us magazine and People magazine, and I'm watching all these photographs of all these stars, Hollywood personalities walking down Bel Air and Hollywood, and they're describing the clothing they're wearing. I thought, how do I get into that? And I was speaking to a friend. He said, well, go to the stylists. And I go, what the hell are stylists? He said, well, the makeup and the hairstylist and the wardrobe stylist. And so I found a mailing list of about 400 stylists in Hollywood. And I sent a letter out and said, if you want a free pair of Ugg boots, call me. And about 40 people did. And I sent 40 pairs of Ugg boots out. And it took a little while, like a couple of months, but before long I'm looking at the sitcom on TV, and Brooke Shields is wearing Ugg boots, you know, and Eyes Wide Shut movie. Tom Cruise has got his feet up on the table with Ugg boots, and then within the 6 months, I'm looking at Us magazine, and here's Cameron Diaz walking down so and so with a pair of Ugg boots, you know, and so that was a very big breakthrough that I sort of was luckily introduced to through stylists, but that changed the image quite a bit.
And yes, luckily, and you also picked up the phone and wrote the emails, right? That wasn't even emails, right? You would write letters or on the phone.
It was on paper back then.
Exactly. Very cool. What would you say you're most proud of in building the brand and/or where it is today?
The lifespan of this brand is amazing. It's 40 years now.
Congratulations.
And it's partly due to the image that I created in the beginning to make it such a cool product. But the bottom line is the product was so good. I mean, I screwed up so many times in other marketing things and delivery problems, and I was never financed properly to where I was able to satisfy all my orders every year. I was always throwing away $500,000 worth of orders. But, you know, the proudest thing is to see that it overcame all of those disastrous decisions I made, and the product itself was so good that people still wanted it. Didn't matter what I did, people still wanted it. And so
awesome.
The longevity of it has been a real surprise for me.
That's very, very cool to see. And in that story where you start with the idea, you create it, and then you see the brand go through different variations, have you been able to pull out any advice for other entrepreneurs or business owners or marketers even, that are going through this cycle that is not easy, as you say, because things inevitably happen?
Most people think of business starting here and going and growing to the big exit, right? It doesn't happen that way. It's hit an obstacle. Oh shit, what do I do? You got to get around it or over it. And the minute you get over it, you cruise along again until you hit the next one. And the same thing. And it's called perseverance. And if you can find your way over all these obstacles and your competitors just get stuck by it, you start to get market share, and you start to get more credibility, and you start to get a flow going. So it's the overcoming the obstacles is the most critical thing. And I have a beautiful saying from my book, which is, The Birth of a Brand. And it's a lot of philosophy in there. And one of the best ones is that nearly always your most disappointing disappointments will become your greatest blessings. And I ask people on the stage all the time, from the stage, raise your hand if in the last 6 months you had a disaster happen in your personal or business life, and now you look back and think, thank God that happened. Every time, 80% plus hands go up.
Yes.
So there's lots of little philosophical pieces in the book to reassure you that, hey, just look at it at a different angle and you'll find the benefit from it.
I love it. So that's great. I'm glad you brought up the book. So The Birth of the Brand, is this your one-stop shop for developing, designing?
At the moment it is. In fact, I did the audio book like 8 years later after I wrote it. And I thought, this is my chance to modernize it and fix it and add to it. And I didn't change a single word. It was such a perfect roadmap for entrepreneurs, because it starts at me having the aha, or it starts even before. It starts getting me out of Australia. That was the biggest thing. And then it finishes with the sale of the company and how it affected my life, So and I don't hold back. I don't talk about all the big wins and the millions of dollars and stuff. I talk about all the disasters that happen, because that's where you learn.
100%.
And entrepreneurs who are going through it, like all my stories on stage are from the book. And afterwards I have so many people come up going, oh my God, thank you for that today. It's exactly what I needed to hear today. They didn't hear the other 10 things I said. Right?
That was the message from them.
That was her message, but his message was totally different from hers. And so each time I come off the stage, I'm really, really, pleased to get all these people come up and say thank you.
That's so cool.
It is really, heartwarming.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the acquisition. So for many entrepreneurs or business owners, the sale looks like this pathway, right? They're looking to build a brand, sell the brand, build another brand, sell the brand. Not everybody, but a lot of people, right?
Of people, yeah.
And the idea perhaps is, well, success lies when that sale takes place.
Yeah.
So talk about a little bit
That's
success.
the worst thing that entrepreneurs do, right? Is they're never finished. And even if they sell a company, and even when I sold the company, it was like, shit, is that all? I thought it'd be way bigger celebration than that, And it was just another day in the life of Brian Smith. But yeah, the desire to keep going and building and making it better that's the problem for entrepreneurs. They should take the time and look back and see what they've done, right? I even asked I was speaking at Inc. 5000 conference, there were 3,000 people in the audience. And I came on stage and I said, how many of you feel successful? And a few people sort of looked, and not a single hand went up.
Really?
It's 3,000 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And that's the problem, is because they're all looking at the future and they're not there yet. And they're looking at their competitors going, oh, look what they're, They never take the time to stop and look at what got them in those seats in the Inc. 5000 in the first place. They had to do something to get there.
Well, it's a really dangerous phrase, as soon as, right? As soon as I get the business to here, as soon as I sell.
It's a big problem for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, that's a really cool story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So how do you define success, and how has that evolved for you over the years?
Well, success to me is it's change, and success changes as you go through stages of life. Like now I'm in my 70s, and I don't have the drive or the need to be big and powerful and seen and have the biggest car and the biggest house. I've done a lot of that, but I was in my 30s when it was appropriate. Then I was in my 40s, it was appropriate. 50s, starting to realize, wait a minute, this material shit isn't all where it's at, And then 60s is like getting a balance and starting to give back. And now, since I've been on the road speaking for 10 years, that to me is the most satisfying. When I look at what energizes and inspires me, it's the giving back now. But that wouldn't be right if I was 20 years younger.
Right.
I'd be on the fight, to make it big.
I love that. Well, then I love how the definition changes over the years, right?
Success will always change. Yeah.
So you're speaking all over the world these days. I know you're traveling to speak.
Yeah, heading
soon.
up to Australia on Sunday,
Yeah, that's amazing. And you mentioned one of the things that people get when you get off the stage is hey, that really resonated with me or connected. Is there anything else that you hope people walk away with after your speaking engagement?
Yeah, just... there's a lot of people in my audiences who haven't started yet, and they've got the idea, and some of them don't, but most of them have got the idea, and they've been talking about it for a year to all their friends. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Well, why don't you start? Oh, it's not ready, it's not perfect yet, And I look back and see the first pair of Ugg boots that I brought in from Australia. They were horrible. They had glue all over them, and they didn't have heel counters or binding. But that was what I started a $2 billion brand now. Started with this crappy beginning. And so for every entrepreneur who's out there, or would-be entrepreneur, just get the hell out, start. Do something. Make somebody pay you for the version of whatever it is that you've got. Could be software, could be a product. Make someone pay for it. The minute they pay you for it, you're in business. Now you got to sell 2 of them. Right?
Now double it.
And now you got to figure out why the other people didn't buy and overcome those objections. Just start. And you've heard that saying that when you start out on a path, the universe will conspire to work with you, right? It's thousands of years old, that saying. And it's really simple. Everything you could possibly want already exists on this planet. But until we start moving in a direction of something, we'll never see the other. Here's a good example. When's the last time you saw an advertisement for a refrigerator?
Probably see one today now that you mention it.
You haven't.
It's been a while.
Couldn't recall, right?
Correct.
But if you needed a refrigerator next Saturday, suddenly you'd be passing by a store on the road, oh, refrigerators.
Yeah.
You'd be in Starbucks and the classified ads would be open on refrigerators, or you'll start getting, internet stuff. And so the thing is, once you start on the path, somebody will come into your periphery and go, oh, I could use that in the business. And then another, oh, I could use that. And so in other words, it's always there.
Right.
Just like refrigerators have always been there.
Right.
You will never see one until you're actually in motion.
Yeah, I love that. So key is keep open as well. And
Keep open.
Yeah.
Yeah, the universe.
Yeah.
Everything, all the Lamborghinis are out there, all the billion-dollar homes, they're all out there. You just got to put yourself in the path to get there.
I love that.
Yeah.
And, you talk about these different philosophies and things that you live by, which are
Right.
so true and so special. Do you have some sort of a mantra or something that you always go back to?
Yeah. I'll give you two illustrations. One, I read in a book of philosophy probably 25 years ago, and I typed it out, and it's on a piece of paper, and I transfer that to my daily planner on the 1st of January every year. I put it in, it used to be on my refrigerator, right? And it's four statements: feast upon uncertainty, fatten upon disappointment, invigorate in the presence of difficulties, and enthuse over apparent defeat, right? So feast, fatten, invigorate, enthuse, super positive, right? And it doesn't matter what word you put on the end. It's any disaster that just happened, like with your kids or your husband or your business associates or the market. It doesn't matter what you put there. If you can change it from the victim mindset, which is, oh, poor me, why did this happen to me? This is so unfair. Why? And it's like, feast upon, what's the uncertainty? It'll be uncertainty, disappointment. It'll be one of these things that you'll be able to latch onto and change your attitude. And like we said before, disappointments become great blessings. So that's one thing that I always fall back on. The other is now, again, because I'm getting older now and I'm sort of getting more comfortable in who I am, and I look back, and this is probably the most powerful piece of philosophy, even though it sounds very trite. The quickest way for a tadpole to become a frog is live every day happily as a tadpole. And if you can do that, which means whatever it is you got to do for the day, just get it done. The next day, get it done. Won't be long before you look back and go, oh my God, I'm a frog,
Yeah.
And you just have to have faith that's where peace of mind comes from.
Yeah. Being in the present.
That you hit it on the head. That says, like, be in the now. You hit it on the head.
I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I haven't asked you that you'd want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, there's just one other thing I'd like entrepreneurs to know, because we all start out in our businesses and we're always comparing with other people in the similar area. And I just want to tell entrepreneurs, don't judge yourself by other people's actions or other people's business level. Like, I was in an imaginary race with Nike and Reebok, right? They both started the same time I started UGG, right? But it was a fun competition with them. I knew I didn't have the power that they had. But so I remember walking into this beautiful big surf shop, action sports shop called Surf Ride here in San Diego. And it used to be a little shack, and he'd built one of the first surf mega stores. I would have my little sample bag, and I'd always feel so insignificant with all these big brands all over the store, top and bottom. And I remember, like, going out surfing in North County here, and Bill, the owner of that store, was out surfing. And I paddled over, hey, Bill, how you doing? And we started talking about business. He said, God, Bron, I envy you. You got the best opportunity going. And I went, what are you talking about? And he says, you know, I've got a beautiful store, but I can only ever make as much money as there are customers coming through the door and buying things. And he said, you can go sell product to hundreds of stores all over the world. And I wish I was you. And I had never seen myself from that perspective before. So when I realized, oh my God, every time I go into a store and they sell 20 or 30 pairs, I'm adding to their profits. I'm a benefactor. Instead of me originally going, oh, I got to take money from them.
Right.
It became, I'm giving them an opportunity to make a ton of money. And so my attitude about my business changed. And that's what I wish for every entrepreneur, is to start seeing the benefit that you're offering to the other person and see it from their perspective. And it'll make you have a lot more self-worth and worth of the business.
It's so true, and it's such a valuable piece of advice. And I think you're right. Sometimes it's a big shift in perspective, and sometimes it's a little shift in perspective.
Yep.
But you just have to have that awareness and the perseverance to shift the perspective, right?
That's
and see
right.
things from a different lens.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing
my
that.
pleasure. Yeah.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining me today. Really a pleasure to talk to you. If you don't have a copy of this book, get one now. The Birth of the Brand. I know we'll be working together again soon on a great speaking event.
Yep.
And we look forward to sharing your message with the audiences. And again, congratulations on everything you've done.
My pleasure, and good luck to everyone out there.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Speak soon.